The Judo Suey podcast is presented by Health IQ, a life insurance agency that helps health-conscious people lower their rates on their life insurance. Are you someone who takes care of their health and fitness and takes special care of themselves through proper nutrition? Do you lift weights or take part of a physical activity like judo, and I'm sure many of you listening do? Then visit www.healthiq.com/judo to learn more about Health IQ's special rates for active people like you and me. 56% of Health IQ customers save between 4 and 33% on their life insurance, and these savings are exclusive to Health IQ customers. So if you want to learn more about how Health IQ can help you save on your life insurance, visit www.healthiq.com/judo to get a free rate quote and to learn more about Health IQ's special rates. Greetings and salutations to everybody out there in podcast land. This is the Judo Suey podcast, and I'm your host, as always, Judo Dave Roman. How you doing? Hope all's well with you guys. I can't say the same for myself. I am dealing with quote-unquote low back pain and back spasms, but come to find out, my problem is not actually with my lower back, but it's with this part of the muscle, part of my hip muscles called the gluteus medius muscle, which I just learned this just a couple of days ago. So I'm actively treating that area, but boy, is it really painful. It is spasms, but it's really there because, a lot of people, I've had people tell me in the past, oh, you got back spasms means you have a weak core. Well, it's not necessarily my core that's weak. There are other muscle structures and stuff that certainly are weaker than others, and I probably have some imbalances. So now that I know what the problems are, I'm going to look to fix them and be proactive in making sure that this doesn't happen again, because it's almost like clockwork for me. It seems about once every 9 months or once a year or so, right around that kind of time frame, I deal with this issue. I get back spasms, and it usually lasts for a month. I don't think it's going to last a month this time because I'm being more proactive in treating it properly, but yeah, it's very painful. It happened last Wednesday. I skipped going to judo on Friday just to try and get it ready. And yesterday I went to train with Judo Joe, doing the no-gi judo and doing nage no kata. And I was in a lot of pain, but probably less pain than I would have been had I practiced on Friday night. So it's very important for me to, a lot of times, I don't have an opportunity to work with a bunch of different adults. So Saturday workouts for me are very important. So I opted to do that. And I had a good time. I mean, I still had the back spasms. I was still training through some pain. But that's just how it goes sometimes. I'm sure some of you know that. And, speaking of that, I remember seeing Travis Stevens talk about this probably sometime last year in a video he posted on his blog about training through pain. There's a difference between training through pain and training with injury. And I think it's important, and I agree with Travis, that if you're in a lot of pain, let's say like a broken toe, or even in my situation with back spasms, I really think it's important to try and find a way to train through that and not take what a doctor would recommend you take 6 to 8 weeks off or something like that until it's fully healed. I think there's value in learning to train through pain, and certainly not injury, because that I've done before, and I've got permanent issues that'll never really be the same unless I had some kind of corrective surgery. But training through pain, it can really test one's mettle, and I think it's important for your mettle to be tested every once in a while. So enough about my back spasms and such. I want to get to the podcast. On this episode, I have a very special interview with a fellow by the name of David Ellis. He is an IJF-B certified referee, and we're going to have a discussion about his career as a referee and how and the steps that he took to get there, and hopefully some of you guys can glean some information on if you ever had any interest on becoming a referee, what that process looks like. There's some very surprising things that I'm going to talk a little bit about after the interview that I need you guys to hear the interview first before I dish some of my opinions, not so much opinions, but thoughts on the interview itself, because I thought it was fascinating. Mr. Ellis was one of 50-plus referees that attended the U.S. Senior National Tournament, and I'm going to discuss some of the results of that tournament because, hey, it's our national championships for judo, so I think it's important to discuss that, and I will. I'm going to highlight, not everybody, but I'm going to highlight some of the divisions and give some props to people who are well-deserving, including a very special listener. And there's always a housekeeping items, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. There's a MMA fight I want to announce, and there's a WWE fight I want to announce. So not any of my fights. I don't do either of those. So with that, I'm going to get right to the housekeeping items. For those who may be new to the podcast, the housekeeping items is a section of the podcast where I really talk about anything but judo. And I use this section to talk about things I'm watching on TV or movies or things like I just teased a moment ago. Is something that relates to MMA or WWE or in this instance, well, not so much in this instance, but in other instances, if there was some kind of a big Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu event or something along those lines. This is the part of the podcast where I discuss those things. So I want to start off talking about Deadpool 2. Now, for the regulars out there, I don't know if I can't remember if I've ever talked about my thoughts on Deadpool. The first one that came out, gosh, about 2 years ago already, right? Well, I wasn't a big fan of Deadpool, and I thought it was entertaining. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was a good movie, but there was a lot of sophomoric things that kind of surprised me about it, and I just didn't find it funny. For me, I think as I'm getting older, things that I used to find funny, like farts or whatever, I don't really find funny anymore. Let's say 10 years ago in judo, if we're doing the waza and somebody farts, I used to think that was the funniest thing. And now I just whatever. I just want to keep training. I don't care if you farted. That's kind of how I feel about it. And that's kind of how I felt about when I watched Deadpool's, the first movie. But this one, it had some of the same type of humor, but I don't know. It was so much better. I love this movie, and a lot of the maybe it's because I was already prepped and now I know what to expect out of a Deadpool movie, but it was excellent. I was pleasantly surprised. There's a villain. I'm not gonna give it away in case a lot of you haven't seen it yet. There's a villain that I didn't expect to see in this movie that I just thought they did a phenomenal job with. And they've done this villain in a previous X-Men movie, but that was very underwhelming, and seeing what they did with this villain was very overwhelming, and I think they got it right. And that's always important to me because I am a longtime comic book fan. It's important to me to see that the movies get a lot of the characters right, which in some ways is really good because they got a lot of characters, especially the X-Men movies, got characters wrong in previous iterations, like X-Men Origins Wolverine. Well, Deadpool was in that movie, but boy, they got that one wrong. I mean, really wrong. So it's almost as if this Deadpool series of movies is kind of an apology to the fans for putting out that piece of garbage. So this movie was excellent. It was, I gotta tell you, toward the end, I almost maybe want to tear up a little bit. I didn't, but it almost did. It almost got me. That's how good I thought the ending was, and it was an excellent movie. And if you go see it, you got to stay for the end credits, of course, because it's very entertaining and very well done. Now, somehow I missed this story that I'm about to cover. I missed this for my last episode. I had a lot of things that I covered in the last episode of my podcast, but I did not see this item until after that podcast was released. And about this, I saw it on ESPN, not one of these minor MMA news reporting websites or news aggregator websites. I saw this right on ESPN. Kayla Harrison, it's been announced, is going to make her MMA debut. And I got this from ESPN. It goes, Kayla Harrison, a two-time U.S. Olympic gold medalist in judo, will make her mixed martial arts debut against Brittany Elkin on June 21st in Chicago. The Professional Fighters League, formerly known as World Series of Fighting, announced Harrison's debut on Wednesday, and that would have been on May 2nd. The promotion has not yet announced Elkin as her opponent, but sources confirmed that news to ESPN following a report by MMAfighting.com. And MMAfighting.com is not one of those minor MMA aforementioned websites. The PFL 2 event will take place at Chicago Theater. The event will also feature former Bellator MMA champion and UFC veteran Will Brooks. Harrison, 27, won Olympic gold for the U.S. in 2012 and 2016 in the under 78 kilo division. Her MMA debut will be contested at 155 pounds. Harrison expressed some reluctance to transition to MMA, citing certain aspects of the sport she wasn't keen on, but ultimately signed with World Series of Fighting in October 2016. Born in Middleton, Ohio, Harrison is not the first high-profile female judoka to translate her skills to MMA. Former UFC champion Ronda Rousey won a bronze medal at the 2000 Olympic Games. Rousey, of course, went on to become the first and most popular female fighter in UFC history. The rebranded PFL promotion is in the process of launching its first quote-unquote season, which will accumulate in a playoff-style format at the end of the year. So I'm sure there's some of you out there just shaking your head at Kayla Harrison doing MMA. I am not one of them because I feel that if you built your life and your career to be an athlete, that you got to make the most use of your physical gifts. And I think for Kayla to transition into MMA is a good way to go. And I'm sure many of you will disagree with that, and that's okay. I don't, that's not a point that I'm willing to argue with a bunch of people over. But I guess my only thing here is, why did Ronda Rousey get an opportunity with the UFC and Kayla Harrison didn't? Maybe some of you guys that really know MMA could answer that question. Perhaps it's because the women's division in MMA just really got better over the past 5 years, and Kayla's skills just isn't quite there yet. And maybe Dana White has talked about this in the past, but I'd kind of be curious to know, what did Dana White see in Ronda Rousey that previously to that point he had not seen in any other female athlete? And we all know that Ronda Rousey is very accomplished in judo, but I mean, look, there's no denying it. Kayla Harrison is even more accomplished, and I'm just curious why she didn't get that same type of opportunity. And look, the UFC can do whatever they want. I mean, that's their call. I'm just kind of talking out loud and wondering out loud why Kayla Harrison wasn't afforded the same opportunity. I mean, she's very personable. She's very charismatic, so it seems. I mean, she and I mean this respectfully, she looks good. She looks good on camera. She's very pretty. Perhaps Kayla's charisma just doesn't translate well for UFC viewers. I don't really know, but it's just one of those things I've always been curious about. And now, speaking of comparisons between Kayla Harrison and Ronda Rousey, I would like to congratulate in advance Ronda Rousey for winning the WWE Women's Championship from Nia Jax. Yes, you heard it right here. I am predicting that. I know that's going to make the marks in the internet wrestling community extremely upset. Going to say, oh, Ronda Rousey didn't pay her dues. Bull crap. The WWE did not sign Ronda Rousey to all that money and bring in such a high-profile athlete to do a job to Nia Jax. And look, don't get me wrong. I actually like Nia Jax. I think she's worked hard and she's very beautiful, and I think she's a great champion. But look, people don't buy pay-per-views. People aren't going to watch Money in the Bank to watch Nia Jax win. They want to see Ronda Rousey win, and if the WWE is smart, they're gonna have her win that title. So Money in the Bank is going to be happening on June 17th in Chicago, coincidentally, along with Kayla Harrison's fight a few weeks earlier in June. And I'll continue to have my WWE subscription membership until then, but then I'm going to cancel it on June 18th because I simply don't watch it enough, and And I've railed about this before, that the wrestling today is just not the same as it was in the 80s and 90s for me, and that's what I love, and that's just not what I'm seeing anymore. So there's no sense in me continuing to give the WWE money. Anyway, what's next? The USA Judo Senior National Championships. This event happened last weekend at the beautiful location of Round Rock, Texas. Actually, I have no idea if it's beautiful. I've never been there. It sounds beautiful, so I'll just leave it at that. Now, I did not get a chance to see really any of this tournament because, well, it wasn't broadcast. So I've managed to watch a couple of matches on YouTube of that was posted, but I don't have anything to report other than the actual winners of each division. It's my understanding the turnout was a little bit low, just like it was last year. At least that's what I've been told. Maybe at least on Saturday, maybe about 300 plus competitors across all weight divisions, across all category divisions. What I mean by category divisions, apparently they had a novice division and a brown belt only division, and of course you had the veterans division. So when you include all of that, I think there was about 300 plus people or so. At least that's my impression. I could be very wrong on that. On USA Judo's website, they said they had 460 participant registrations, but that, I'm guessing, includes the kata clinic and the kata competitions that happened on Sunday, which for some reason I do not have any results for. I'm probably missing it. But I would like to give a hat tip to all of the winners in each division. I'd like to read those names out loud, so here goes. In the under 44 kilo division, which I did not know there was an under 44 kilo division. I thought it started at under 48. Alexandra Wilson won the under 44 kilo division on the women's side. And I hate to say, but it's my understanding that she was the only participant in that division. But hey, you nobody else shows up in your division and you win it. I mean, what do you want? Not going to expect her to take the over 78 kilos, so that might have been fun. Anyway, the under 48 kilo division was won by Alexa Silao. Hopefully I got that name right. The under 52 kilo division was won by Elaine Abon. The under 58 kilo division was won by Angelica Delgado. That's her 5th national championship. We're all in the United States side familiar with Angelica and her accomplishments. The under 63 kilo division was won by Alicia Gales, that's her 2nd national championship. The under 70 kilo division was won by Chantal Wright. The under 78 kilo division was won by Nefeli Papadakis, that's her 2nd national championship. And in the over 78 kilo division, somebody many of us are familiar with, Nina Kutro-Kelly won her 8th national championship. Gosh, that's got to be pretty close to a record, I would think. Moving on to the men's side, the under 55 kilo division was won by Max Antonio. The under 60 kilo division was won by David Agoglia. The under 66 kilo division, a surprise winner, at least for me anyway, was Alaa El Idrisi. And the reason why that's a surprise, because if I was a betting man, hell, I am a betting man, but I didn't bet on this contest. I would have bet Ryan Vargas to win that division. It's my understanding he came in 2nd. The under 73 kilo division was won by Brad Boland. That's his 6th national championship. The under 81 was won by somebody many of us are familiar with. He's had a pretty good year last year, the IJF World Tour, Jack Hatton. That's his 2nd national championship. The under 90 kilo division was won by Alfred Brown. The under 100 kilo division was won by Nate Keeve. And the over 100 kilo division was won by Akbar Iminov, and that's his 3rd national championship. Now, from reports, I'm not ripping on anybody, but it's my understanding the over 100 kilo division was not really all that entertaining to watch. But from what I saw in the participation list, the under 73 kilo and the under 81 kilo divisions were stacked. There was a lot of entrants in those divisions, which I find very interesting. I guess because I would have figured the under 60 and under 66 kilo divisions would have been the divisions that had the most amount of participants. But no, it happened to be those 2 other divisions. Now, I'd like to highlight a very special win on the veteran side of things in the veteran 3 under 90 kilo men's division. A Mr. Jonah Ewell of Oakland Judo won his division, which, if I'm not mistaken, means that Jonah Ewell of Oakland Judo is now your veteran 3 under 90 kilo national champion.
I'm the winner!
Yes, you are, Jonah, and rumor has it you were screaming that in people's faces all over Round Rock after your victory. From what I understand, you took a victory lap around the auditorium and were screaming that left and right at anybody that would listen. Now, I'm sure the longtime listeners of this esteemed podcast recognize that name. He's been a guest on the program. He's sent me numerous voicemails. He's sent me numerous emails. He's a friend of the show and a good man. And I wanted to highlight this. I thought I saw his matches. His really were the only matches that I watched, along with some others. But I definitely watched every single minute of his matches because he was kind enough to put them on YouTube. And he fought very well, won by a couple of arm bars, showing off his purple belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. And he fought well, so congratulations to you, Jonah. Oakland Judo's got a coach that's also a national champion. Do they call them national champions in the veterans divisions or just winners? I don't know. You know what? You're a national champion to me because if a girl can win the under 44 kilo division with nobody fighting against her, and she's a national champion, then you're a national champion. So congrats to you, Jonah. Well done. Now, speaking of the national championships, I would like to bring in a guest at this time. My next guest has been a referee in judo for over 30 years. He has been a fixture in Florida Judo for right around that time, about that long. He has recently become a certified IJF-B referee, and he was at this last weekend's Senior Nationals. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Ellis. David, it's great to have you on the Judo Chop Suey podcast. How you doing this evening?
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come on the show. Can you tell a little bit about yourself and I know you are a Godan. Is that correct?
Yes, I just recently got my Godan April of last year, 2017.
Oh, congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thanks. I started judo when I was 7 in June of 75. So I've been doing it now for 43 years. I've been refereeing since approximately 1984 and doing kata. And my dad and I have been several times state champions in katas within Florida.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. I saw your judo resume. I don't know your father obviously, but I kind of assumed that might have been your brother, but that was your father. Wow.
Yep.
So you grew up in a judo household, I take it then.
Well, my dad had a semester in college, and then when he restarted down here at Patrick Air Force Base, I started and my mom started, and then later my sister joined. The interesting fact, though, is I'm the only one still in judo at this point due to different reasons.
Patrick Air Force Base, that's by Satellite Beach, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I was out there last year. We're visiting some family out on the out there. So I drove right past it. So yeah, all right. I know exactly what that is. So there was an Air Force judo club there. Is that it? And was your father in the military?
My dad was in the Air Force at the time, and yes, at the time there was a Patrick Air Force Base judo club. It was run by Patty McMahon. She was approximately 18. And then when she had to go off to college, she handed the club over to Dave Daly. And then some point after that, he moved off the Air Force Base and became Space Coast Judo Club. And then approximately 1980, my dad started up his own club out of the Palm Bay Rec Center.
Interesting. Very good. Very good. Now, you had your own club out in Melbourne, correct?
My dad moved his club from the Palm Bay Rec Center over to Indian Harbor Beach, and for a while he had the only club in the county, Brevard County.
Wow.
And then he handed the club over to me for a while, and then I ran it for a while until I got a gentleman, Dave Parrott, sensei, who's a higher rank than me, and he was retired, so he could devote more time to the club where I was not able to.
I see. So what club are you a part of now, over in that direction?
It's called Harbor City Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. The head judo instructor is Dave Parrott sensei.
Okay. And you are one of the assistants?
Yeah. We also have a 6th Dan, Fred Fries, and then myself at Godon.
Excellent. That's a lot of high-ranking individuals there. That's good because there's a lot of clubs over in this side that don't really have that kind of experience in the clubs, with the exception of Florida School of Judo. But I'm sure you know all about that.
Yeah, I know Florida School of Judo real well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw that you have certifications in teaching kata with Nage no kata, Kime no kata, and Katame no kata. Do you hold clinics at all?
I've helped run some clinics with Mindy Buman, who's won nationals in several different katas, and I believe she's also placed internationally in some of those katas also. I've helped her teach, helped her with Nage no kata, and I believe also I did have a seminar with Bruce Brothers, came down, and we taught Kimi no kata at a clinic.
Very good. Now, most of my listeners are not in Florida. They're all over the place. You have been a fixture in Florida Judo for quite some time, and you are currently I believe on the board for Florida Judo Incorporated. What is your role in Florida Judo?
What's my role in Florida Judo Inc.? What's my role not in Florida Judo Inc. would be an easier question to answer.
Probably, right?
Yeah, right now in Florida Judo Inc., I'm an elected executive committee recording secretary. I'm registration chairperson, sanctions chairperson, referee secretary, referee commission member, web author, and that's just what I can tell you right off the top of my head.
Sure. Yeah, I've known. I mean, I started judo back in just 2005, and your name has been associated with Florida Judo, and ever since I stepped on the mat. So I've actually met you on a few occasions, and I went to a referee seminar that you had back in 2010. I doubt you remember that, but you were over on this side.
Riverview area. I believe the ferries were helping me set that one up, if I remember.
That's correctly. Right. That was exactly it. I was there. That leads me to my question. Now you told me earlier it was in the mid 80s that you first became a referee?
Yeah, I was a referee. Well, the first time I got certified was approximately 1984 by Mike Heilman, who used to be big in the area for referees. And when he moved, Betty Stam helped me with the referees. She at that time was a national referee, and I was what they call a regional referee, which is basically a state level referee. And then in 2002, 2001, a guy came down to the USJA states in Claremont, and he was the chief referee. And after a day, he says, "Well, you're going down to the JA states, which is down in Boca, the JA juniors in Boca." And I said, "Yeah, I'm going down there." And I said, "I'll be there to work as a technical official." And he says, "Bring your referee attire." And I said, "But I'm not high enough." He says, "I'm the chief referee for that event. If we don't have enough people, I might use you." And then,
yeah.
So then he used me, and then he says, "Why are you not going for national yet?" And I said, "Well, in 2001, my son was born. And I said, I want to spend time with my son. And I said, also, and my wife, and I don't have a lot of money, obviously. So I said that, and he says, "Well, you might want to reconsider." And then came up here after the tournament and told that story to the wife, and the wife says, "Well, why haven't you tested?" And I took that as, okay, it's time to go test.
Yeah.
So in 2002, I went and tested for national.
So, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on here, because you've had a very, very long refereeing career, but I really don't know anything about what it means to become a referee and what it means to become national referee. So I'm definitely hoping we can go down that path there. So, but before we get into that, I'm curious. Being a referee has got to be one of the most thankless jobs out there. Why did you choose to be a referee?
Well, part of it was my dad instilled in everybody in our club that we had to give back after we got done playing. And even while I was still playing my later Shiai days, I was a referee, and then I'd change into my gi and then go compete. So to try to give back to the sport for those that gave to us. So while it's thankless in some ways, but knowing that I've been trying to be as impartial as humanly possible, I feel like I've given the players the best opportunity to show me what they know and what they can do.
Very good, very good. Interesting. Thank you. Now, David, before I continue with the rest of my questions, I need to take a moment to talk about the sponsor of this podcast, and that's Health IQ. Health IQ wants to recognize your hard work and dedication to a fit and healthy lifestyle by offering you savings on your life insurance. Health IQ is a life insurance agency that helps health-conscious people like many of you listening to this podcast to get lower rates on their life insurance. According to a 2009 study in the International Journal of Sports Medicine, men who did high-intensity exercise have a 35% lower risk of all-cause mortality. For women, the risk reduction is 44%. By having an active and healthy lifestyle, Health IQ can get you lower rates on your life insurance policy if you qualify. Visit www.healthiq.com/judo to learn more and to see if you can qualify for a lower rate on your life insurance. What is, because you were just talking about getting your national referee, what is the progression system like at a national level in terms of getting a national level referee? I don't really quite understand that. Is that similar to how they do the coaching levels, where you're state and then regional and then eventually national? Is it similar? Can you explain that a little bit?
Okay, the lowest level referee level is a local referee, and that's somebody most of the time in most states. It's if you're not old enough, or you're not able to pass the regional level test, then we usually make a person a local referee. So if God forbid something happens to our tournament and somebody tries to sue somebody, all our referees are certified, and it helps in that manner. Then the regional within Florida, we go through Florida Judo Inc. You're given a written test, usually at a tournament like the Sunshine State Games, and you got to pass at least 70% on the test. If you do that, then you go out on the mat and referee, and you have our FJI referee commission members trying to watch you, see if you're good enough for regional referee. For nationals, it's a similar thing. It's just a harder test and higher up referees that are looking at you at a national level. And then once you get national, you got basically 3 levels of national. And I think now N1 is the entry level, N2 is the middle level, and N3 is you're almost candidate for the whatever's next, which used to be Pan American PJCC. But the IJF just came down and says we don't recognize that level anymore, and that's part of the reason why I got to go be converted from a PJCC into a IJF-B, or also known as a IJF Continental referee.
So you were a PJCC certified referee.
Yes.
Now, how did you get that certification? Was it just another test? Did you have to apply for that? Did you have to be accepted? Were your matches evaluated before you got to that level?
Well, each event you go to, national or higher, they rank you, or they rate you based on how you did, and you got to get high enough ratings to get up to that higher level. And then after you a 3, and sometimes they even put a 4 out there, you then they'll come around as if you hit enough tournaments and say, okay, you're going to go test for PJC, which is another interesting story in my case, because this happened in 2009. I was laid off from my job in June 2nd of 2009, and they came to me shortly after I told the USA Judo Referee Commission that I was laid off. They said, you are going to test this year for PJC. And I said, where? They said, the Disney, there's a tournament down at the Coronado Springs. I said, fine. I was already planning on going there, had the hotel and everything. I show up there and they said, oh, we're not testing here. We're going to test you down at the Junior Open down in Fort Lauderdale. I said, okay, That's fine. I was already planning on being there. And I get there and they said, no, it's going to be San Jose, California. And I'm looking, going, I just told you I was unemployed, and you're telling me I got to go out to California. So I turned around to the then FJI president and said, Jerry Navarro, I said, I need to be a delegate for Florida to try to help pay for part of my airfare. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to afford to go out to California and then pay their testing fee. And if you pass, then you pay another fee on top of that. There you have a normally either written or verbal test, and then you have the on the mat test also.
Right. Now, so you get that level you get that certification, and if I understood you correctly, you said that you had to test for the IJF-B certification because the IJF no longer recognizes the previous certification that you had. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, not everybody that's at that level within the United States was given the authority to go test. There was about 40 of us in the U.S. that were PJCC levels, and they came back and said about 20 of you are currently approved to go test. The other 20 you either have to wait longer, or we might have a different option for you later, but right now we don't have an option for you. So 20 of us went down to Costa Rica, San Jose, Costa Rica, and within 3 weeks notice, by the way, went down there to test.
Yeah, and I saw the pictures on your Facebook. That's very interesting. Now, can you explain to me what an IJF-B certification is, and not just for me, but for the benefits of the listeners? That is a continental certification, correct?
It's a continental certification, and it allows me to referee at certain events with the approval of USA Judo, and wherever USJ Judo wants to, quote, send me, as long as I can fund myself most places, because it's most of our national or higher events are self-funded. Senior nationals this year, we got a referee stipend of $25.
Wow, that was actually that's very interesting. You know, I'll go to those questions because I did have questions about that. So you do not receive any sort of stipend for these. So you just went to U.S. nationals, and I would imagine for the local and regional events that would be out of pocket. But what about you just said the national event, you only got a $25 stipend. But what about international events? If USA Judo chooses to send you, let's say, the Cancun Grand Prix in October, would that be an event you'd even officiate, or is that event too high a level?
That Grand Prix are very high and very competitive to try to get into, and I'd probably have to be refereeing more national or higher events in order to be selected for that. That was
Gotcha.
part of my problem going from trying earlier to go to my IJF-B was wasn't hitting the about 6 national or higher events within a year due to job.
So you have a certain amount of events that you have to officiate, and those are all self-funded out of pocket events. So you have to travel, wherever it could be, whatever those high-level national events are, and then from there you got to have at least 6. That's what I'm understanding here?
Yeah, they said approximately 6 to be able to go up, because that's how many everybody else that was at my level was hitting, that at least that many to go up. So, and within the state, we have most tournaments we get a referee stipend anywhere from $20 to $25 for a regular referee, and then the chief referee can get anywhere from the same $20 to $25. But I might get up to $100. But I got to deal with the coaches, in between the coaches and the referees, and also between the coaches and the tournament director. So I got a lot more responsibility.
So right now you are an IJF-B certified referee. What kind of events could you be? And this was very interesting to me, because now, see, I was under the impression that now that you're an IJF referee, that the events that you would go to would be from the directive of the IJF, but that's not the case. It's from USA Judo. That's correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, within the U.S., you basically got to ask if you want to go to events that are accepted B level. There's certain events that don't. Obviously, like the Olympics, you got to be at A level. You got to be working the circuit heavy. But certain events will allow a B level. You got to go to the USA Judo Referee Commission if you're within the United States, obviously, and ask if it's okay for you to go to the event that you want to go to. And I've heard that from Mindy, who's just got her A in 2017, that she gets told every once in a while within 2 weeks that, okay, you're going to Hong Kong next week to go referee some championship out there, or Cancun, or wherever. And it's, again, most of that's self-funded.
Wow. I would have thought the IJF would, especially for the referees that travel all over the place. That's fascinating. What? Gosh,
now,
how do you even?
Olympics as a referee, I believe they do pay for your airfare over there and back.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
I said if you're going to the Olympics to referee, I believe they do pay for your airfare there and back and your room for that event. But in order to get that, you got to be refereeing on the circuit heavy for 4 years, basically, and work the world championships right before the Olympics, and all be selected by the IJF.
Right. So the referees, even at the A level, they are self-funded. Would that be accurate?
It's self-funded for some of the international tournaments if they're a chief referee at an event, or an evaluator if the event happens to be within the United States. Then I believe they get some extra funding for rooms and maybe flight. I don't know. I haven't been obviously at that level to know exactly what it is. But yeah, I've heard from Dr. Gary Berliner that he has to have a special doctor come in to replace him, so he has to pay this doctor and then all the airfare and everything to get out to these other countries where he referees.
Wow, that's fascinating. So, USA Judo, what kind of events would you be with your IJF-B certification that you might end up being going to for either within the continent or within the country?
Well, obviously, I'm eligible to referee at basically any of the national events held within the United States, plus the U.S. Open. And I believe the Quebec Open is one that's usually got an open invitation with a limited number of referees allowed to go from each country. and there's a few others within Canada and within the Mexico. Sorry.
Right. So when you are evaluated, how is that process? How does that process happen? How do people grade you as a referee? Is it just a matter of what calls they think you got wrong versus which calls they think you got right? Or is there another process involved?
There's a process. There's about 8 or 9 different criteria, including one of the criteria I know is gestures, one's procedures, one's um, appearance, basically. And they grade you. They get at least the chief referee and the 2 evaluators for a national event or higher event if it's within the U.S. to sit down and grade you, and sometimes they bring in some of the other IJFAs that happen to be working the table with us that day or days, depending on which event it is. And they grade us on each of these. Is he middle of the road? Is he less than middle of the road? Or is he above average? And basically sit there and grade you basically from a 0 to 4. So it sort of goes along with the ratings for the nationals referees. But then they also look at what level we currently are when they're doing that grading. So they're comparing me against, now they'd be comparing me against IGF Continental referees.
Interesting. So you get graded, and how many, if you want to, well, actually, let me ask this first. Do you have a desire to become an IJFA certified referee?
I believe in the wording of the last thing that I got was, since I would have aged out when I hit 50, that since I did hit the magic age of 50, that I wouldn't be able to A, test for B, and then when they said that this conversion was happening, that this would be my last referee promotion. So I don't believe I'm eligible to go to IJFA, which is also called international referee.
So can you explain to me what you mean by aging out? I don't understand that, especially because a lot of the referees I see on the IJF World Tour seem to be older than 50.
Yeah, well, normally to test, at least within the United States, for IJF-B, you got to be less than age 50. And normally for IJFA, you got to be less than 55. If you've hit that magic age, the USA Judo won't let you go test. And it might be at the IJF rule. I don't know. I just know what I hear from USA Judo.
Okay.
But once you get that rank, they might ask you not to referee at certain events due to not doing too well performance-wise as a referee. But most of the time, you get to keep that for as long as you don't do something that they ask you not to come back for. You get to keep that level.
Now, how many referees at a national level do you think there are? Do you even have a number? Any idea what that number looks like?
I don't know how many is actually active. I know at the senior nationals we had, I want to say 55 referees at it, but that one they normally limit because everybody wants to go to senior nationals. So
I
they
see.
take the first 55 that they could get, and it says, okay, anybody else, you're on a waiting list. So if I don't sign up quick enough at the beginning of the year and they post it, and I want to go to senior nationals, which actually happened to me this year, I initially was put on a waiting list to even work the event because there was already the 55 people already set up. Well, some people had to cancel due to work conditions. Others had to cancel due to having a surgery or a family member issue. And enough of them canceled where they came down to me on the waiting list and says, okay, enough people have canceled. You're now okay to go as long as you tell me today. If you don't tell me today,
Right.
I'm going on to the next person on the list.
Interesting. So it seems like there are for, at least from a national level, there are plenty of referees to work events. I just wasn't sure if that was a challenge that USA Judo had. It certainly doesn't seem so. If there are what it sounds like, referees around the country knocking, practically banging on that door to get into these events.
Well, senior nationals is kind of unique. Senior nationals and what used to be the Junior U.S. Open, but now is the U.S. Open, because almost everybody wants to go referee those events. So there's other events like the JOs that is normally short referees, and usually the JAs, JFs are usually short number of referees. So they're usually come up on the event, and if they don't get enough people already responding, they say, "Can you please come to work this event?" Because we're short referees, and the referees that do show up end up having to work longer days because there's not a lot of them.
Right. Now,
and state.
Go ahead, David.
We're definitely short referees. I showed up at the tournament a couple weeks back, and I was the chief referee, and there's only 8 of us for 3 mat areas.
Oh wow, yeah, they must have been standing out there all day. No, what event was that?
That was the Rattler Roundup held down in Boynton Beach.
Boynton Beach, okay, yeah, I've been there once before. That's right. So this is. It's odd for me to ask this because and I'm not asking about your financial situation and stuff. It seems like there's a tremendous burden placed on referees to come up with their own funding. So USA Judo may say, look, we need referees at this event because we're short, but we expect you to pay all out of pocket expenses for that. That's flights, that's hotels, that's food. I mean, that to me, that's like to be a couple $1,000s for every single event.
There's certain events. I know the Jimmy Pedro tournament, he offers hotel rooms and stuff if you share it with other referees. What used to be the Junior U.S. Open, Jerry Navarro will put up a certain number of referee rooms. Again, if you share the referees room with another referee. So there are certain events that are helping with that, and I know most of, the Liberty Bell, I got a referee stipend. I don't remember how much when I went up there last year because I wasn't able to get into the senior nationals, so I went to the Liberty Bell in place of that, and I got some sort of referee stipend. So it is getting better, but yeah, it does cost a lot of money to go out to these events to work.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. I mean, I know I couldn't afford it, not with that kind of frequency of travel. I mean, I gotta plan way ahead before I can, make those kind of flights. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, did you go on Expedia.com or Priceline or something? I mean, is that how it goes? You got hotel codes that you use, or?
I usually talk to my wife, and she figures out through Expedia or Priceline or whatnot to try to find the cheapest flights and the cheapest rooms that are livable in.
Yeah. No, I get you. So, I'm curious, just from a refereeing standpoint, when you are out there officiating a contest, are you able to easily separate the entertainment aspect of what's going on compared to what you're doing as a job? So, for example, I don't know, do you sit there and say, wow, that was an incredible throw before you make the call, or you're just strictly looking at what's happening on the mat and you're focused on the task at hand?
Most of the time I'm focused on the task at hand, but every once in a while, and it's usually when I end up going, well, was that blue or was that white? I go, wow, what a great technique. And then I look down and go, okay, who threw that?
Yeah.
I usually have to remind myself in my head, not only the score, but I got to remember, is it blue or is it white that scored? And it's especially difficult when it involves a kaishu as a counter technique.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got one person that started the technique, and by the time that it hits the mat, the other person's got control. And sometimes both players get up thinking they've won, and I got to sort that out in my head. And that's why I usually try to say blue, 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 or white, white, white in my head. And
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while I'll say, wow, that was a great technique. And then I'm going, oh no, was that blue or was that white?
Now, what you've been involved in judo for over 40 years. Do you have any strong opinions either way on some of the rule changes over the past 8 to 10 years? Or you just kind of accept it for what it is and you just kind of roll with it?
I kind of accept the rule changes as what it is because I know I don't have control over the rules. I can try to give some of the A's some feedback that might have some control over it, but whatever rules come down, I try to do my best on interpreting them the way I can understand them, and then just roll with it based on what the interpretation is. I might like it or might not like it, but I got to referee to the rules.
Of course. Of course. Do you have any personal opinions on some of the rule changes? I mean, take your pick. Whatever rule changes from this year, or maybe going all the way back to banning leg grabs or at least the initial rule changes regarding leg grabs in 2010. Do you have personal opinions or?
As as a player, I used the leg grab a lot. If somebody came in weak, I reached up and grabbed the leg and did either swept the foot up to where I could grab it, and then I could sweep the other one with a Ochigari, or I grabbed it to try to do something like Utsurigoshi, or so. My natural instincts is to grab the leg. So if I'd ever gotten back into Shiai competition, I'd have to adjust to the rules.
Sure.
That might be difficult because my natural instincts is not for that. But I sort of understand because part of what if I understood the story correctly, the International Olympic Committee went to the IJF and said, we don't like this bent over reaching for legs. It looks too much like wrestling. We already have wrestling in the Olympics. We don't need wrestling in pajamas in the Olympics. And so change something or we're going to kick you out. And that's when judo came up with the leg grab issue, which, according to the IGF, has gotten the judo players to stand up more and less of the bent over at the waist, grabbing at each other's feet.
Yeah, what you just relayed there. I mean, that's how I've always understood how the story's gone. Neil Adams even said something like that on a live broadcast about a year and a half ago or so. So I thought that was interesting. That's what I always understood. What was the story behind those changes? I tend to watch a lot of IGF competitions. I do it for the podcast. I do it for my own enjoyment. And I got to say, the changes have definitely made the players stand up, be a lot more postured. And it does make for some entertaining judo contests, especially at the lighter weight divisions.
Yes.
Now, I got to just probably last question here. Throughout your officiating career, who's harder to deal with, parents or coaches?
Some cases, the parents, because they don't understand what's going on. Some cases, the coach, especially if the coach is out of date with the rules, because the rules every 4 years change.
Sure.
Usually they don't change in the actual Olympic year, but so they change it right after Olympics, and then up to that Olympic year, then they start not changing it. So
yeah,
if you don't keep up on the rules or the interpretation of the rules, which might not change the wording, but actually what they want, the IGF wants, by not going to coaches meetings or what. In Florida, I try to have rules meetings, which is both the coaches and the referees, so the coaches could hear what I say to the referees. so they can understand the interpretations that we're going to use at that given event.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I don't get, maybe I need to sign up. Is there a newsletter for Florida Judo, or do you just use Facebook or you just use the website?
I use the website, but I also run the Florida Judo Yahoo group, which is Florida_Judo@yahoogroups.com. And if you send subscribe, I believe, or do a search on that, and it'll tell you how to subscribe. And I send out information about upcoming events and things that affect judo within Florida, irregardless of the politics side of it.
Sure. I didn't realize that Yahoo group was still active. I haven't. I know I joined that thing years ago, but I haven't been back. I usually just go to the website, FloridaJudoInc.org. So you're the webmaster?
Yeah, I'm the webmaster for Florida Judo Inc. website, and I try to keep the events I'm aware of, at least in Florida, on the website for the given time.
Sure. All right, Dave. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm back. Hopefully you enjoyed that interview. I got to say, I was very, very surprised at what David told me in regards to compensation, even at the IJF level. And maybe I'm just a cheap bastard. Actually, I know I am. But man, that would be very tough for me to set aside funds every year, thousands of dollars, to be able to travel to do these different tournaments. And I know it's important to give back to judo, and it's something that is important to me. As I mentioned in my last episode, I've joined AAU Judo. I've joined the Judo Black Belt Association. Being a part of that ingrained is something that I plan on doing. And that includes me becoming a freestyle judo referee at some point. I very much would like to do that. But even for me, it would be very tough for me to get out to all of the events. I mean, I probably at best, at this point in my life, with 4 kids and a wife and, all the expenses that come with being a divorced person at one point or another, that's a big commitment for me. I probably could only do an event or 2 a year tops. But I guess for me, the biggest surprise was even at the IJF level, those A events. We're talking about Grand Slams, World Championships, Grand Prix. I mean, the key events that I pretty much talk about on this podcast, that even those guys have to pay their own way to these tournaments, and there's very little compensation. And to me, and I've talked about this before, if the IJF claims that they've got 1 billion eyeballs watching their events, they're certainly not making enough money out of that. And look, I know everybody in the IJF wants to make money. That's what being a sport is all about, ultimately. And no, I'm not talking about the traditional values of Shiai. I'm talking about putting on contests on TV or whatever to garner eyeballs so that you're advertising your product, you're advertising your sponsors. And to me, a sport that is as popular as they claim it is, even overseas. Now, look, not in the United States, not in this side of the world, but over there, apparently there's a lot of viewership. And I know that the Paris Grand Slam and other Grand Slam events sell out auditoriums. They sell out stadiums. Oh, maybe not like, football stadium size, but they certainly sell out arenas. And we've all heard many times people talking about the Paris Grand Slam and what kind of event that is. And I don't think the Dusseldorf Grand Slam was much different either. So it's definitely viewed, but I have to believe that they're missing opportunities to make money, because at the very least, and I've talked about the prize pools should be bigger for the athletes, but my goodness, your refs got to get paid. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but it really should be something, because that's a tremendous investment. And look, I'm willing to admit, maybe I just don't get it. Maybe all of these referees just absolutely love to referee. perhaps promotions are tied to how many events you referee. I really have no idea. And believe me, I am not being critical of anybody's decision to referee. That is not what I'm trying to say here at all. It's just I'm very surprised at the compensation. At a national level, no, I'm not surprised because, look, I mean, USA Judo is struggling for money as it is. Okay, maybe struggling is not the right word, but I know USA Judo does not have millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in their coffers to be able to pay referees. And I get that, but I guess I was just really surprised at an international level. I can't imagine, if judo wants to be considered, if the IJF wants judo to be considered a major sport and wants that sport to grow, it has to be supported and funded, financially across all levels, not just with the athletes, but with the tournament directors, the referees, the side judges, the people that work with scoreboards, all of that. Everybody's got to make something. And look, somebody out there who lives on the other side of the world, if you know different, if the IJF refs are funded in some way, that was, what David said, but I know he's not officiating IJF Grand Slam events on the other side of the world, so maybe they do get compensated. I don't know. I'm not saying David's wrong. I'm just saying, maybe we don't know the entire picture here. I'm just saying I'm just very surprised by it all. All right, I think that's going to be about it for me today on this episode. Once again, I would like to thank David Ellis for joining the podcast and answering my questions regarding how to be a referee and what it takes and his career in doing that. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can always write to me at judochopsuishow@gmail.com. I've got a Twitter and an Instagram, and you can follow both at La Vida Judoka. And if you're on Facebook, which I'm sure many of you are, you can always do a search for Judo Chop Suey Show or Judo Chop Suey Podcast, and I'm sure to appear in these search results in some way, shape, or form. And if you're bold enough, you can also send me a friend request at David Roman. Do a search for David Roman, and I'm sure you'll see my handsome mug out there somewhere. This coming up weekend for me is Memorial Day weekend. I don't know. I highly doubt other countries have Memorial Day, but but in the United States, we've got Memorial Day. It's a 3-day weekend. And the objective of Memorial Day is to honor and remember those who have died serving our country, which is something I am very cognizant of. And it is also, at least in this country, the unofficial start of summer. Granted, summer officially starts usually the third week of June, but for many of us, it's the unofficial start of summer. School's out for at least everybody in Florida. At least I think so. Certainly in my county it is. My boys get out this coming up Friday. So we'll probably plan on doing something fun, I hope. Maybe we'll head out to Disney and one of the Disney water parks before my passes expire. But anyway, I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Train hard. Stay safe out there. And until next time, I'm out.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style.